Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. So I'm going to be starting a new segment. It's called Easier Said. And this is where I'm going to talk about things that are easier said than done. Because I think a lot of the times we hear people say, like, you should do this and you should do that. And we should. But guess what? It's not always that easy. Or you'll see like a really great Instagram quote and you're like, oh, wow, that was so touching. I should totally do that. But it's not that easy. Easier said than done. So today's easier said is the fact that people always think that you should leave a situation when it's like dire, when it gets bad. They're like, my job, I don't really like it. It's just okay, but it's not that bad. Or I'm in this relationship, he's cool, and it's not that bad. People always compare their situation to the worst situation. They'll be like, well, it's not like he's Chris Brown and I'm Rihanna. It's not like they, fire me if I come in 2 minutes late. Like, let's not have our standards be compared to the lowest of the low. Like, it's okay to leave any situation that isn't enriching you, isn't helping you grow, and isn't bringing you joy. It doesn't have to be like, it's the worst situation of my life. Because I think what happens when we stay in situations that are just okay, where things aren't that bad, is we become resentful, and then they do become that bad. So like when you get that feeling in your gut where it's like, this is like not helping me grow. This is stunting my growth. This is not bringing me joy. This is feeling more bad than good. That's when it's time to leave, not when, oh man, I am down and out. Like then you don't even have the strength to get up at that point. So today's easier said is know when it's time to go. And when it's time to go isn't when it gets really bad. It's way before that. So I want to welcome my guest tonight. Her name is Glaiza. Hi, Glaiza.
Hey, Tanisha.
I've always thought you had an interesting name, by the way.
Thanks. It is. It wasn't interesting in elementary.
Because nobody could spell it?
Because it was Glacier and Glazed Donut and Godzilla. And
Well, welcome. How you doing tonight?
I'm all right. I'm ready.
Yeah?
I like what you said, though, about easier said than done.
Yeah.
I was like, you're right. If it doesn't feel good, like, go. Just go.
So you and I were chatting the other day, and we were talking about the fact that you've been in a long-term relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And for 7 years, to be exact. And at this point, you would have expected that maybe you guys would be at a different place, possibly marriage.
Or engaged.
Even,
yeah.
But that hasn't happened.
It hasn't.
So what was happening like year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6? Like, how did we get here? And by the way, here is not a bad place unless there's something else that you want, right?
Agreed. Yes.
So if you just didn't care about marriage, there's no problem. But it's an important thing for you.
It is.
Why is it so important for you?
I want to get married because there's just a beauty for me in having a life partner. I mean, I come from a broken home. I come from a rough childhood. I guess I fall into that category of women who had daddy issues, I guess, right? Like my biological father wasn't around. I have this idea that I've made a lot of mistakes in my lifetime. I just don't want the person that I spend the rest of my life with to be one of them. Just having other disappointments in my life, I guess, like having that one life partner who can just make that better, in this journey would be great. And so like that type of a commitment, that type of unity, I'm very faith driven. I'm a Christian, so I value marriage. I value that type of unity. But I will say that it was challenged during this relationship. There was a point in time where I was kind of like, what if that's not what God's plan is for me? Because we had been in and out several times. And I was like, what if I'm not meant for marriage? Are you okay with that? And that really happened because I had a conversation with one of my girlfriends. And I'll never forget, I put it in one of my chapters in my book. And I remember her being like, what if you don't ever get married? And I had this moment of pause, Tanisha. I was like, I know you did not just speak that over my life. Like, I know you did not just say that out loud. I was like, no, why would he do that to me? Like, why would God? No, he knows the desires of my heart, first of all. Like, and I started getting all scriptural with her about it, right? And she was like, that's sad.
So what if, let's just say right now, we could see into the future and you never got married. What would that mean for your life?
Because I'm at a place of gratitude, because I'm in this season of growth, and I have so many blessings, I would rely on that to get me through. I would rely on the idea of there are other things in this life that you could be grateful for, that marriage doesn't have to be like the pinnacle of success for you, you know? And I'm sure I would come to peace with it. I mean, I'm already 35. Like, if I'm being honest, I thought that at 25, I would have the house, the kids, the fence, the dog, the whole nine, right? I was always that woman that knew that I wanted a husband.
No one should get married before 30 anyway. So
I agree with that now.
Before we go there, take us back to like the way beginning of this relationship. Help me understand how we got here.
So full disclosure, this was my first quote unquote, what you would call a healthy relationship. He was the guy that already had established his faith, had a great relationship with family, knew who he was, athletic, educational, you know what I mean? Like by social standards. And I think that having had that in my life, it made me rise up and want to be, you know, a better person. We met through a web series. We were acting together. A few months into it, we were doing 2 truths and a lie as a game, right? So everybody had to go around, share 2 truths and a lie. And at the end of it all, after all the laughter, after all the tears and everything, he signals me from across the room. Then that night, we talked after acting. We sat outside of my friend's house, who we were doing that web series with. And we were there until like 3 or 4 in the morning. I had to be at work at like 7 or 8 that morning, and he texts me to make sure I made it home, and I'm running off 3 hours of sleep, and he texts me and he's like, hope you have a great day, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so from there, we just talked and we text a lot, often, because that was the beginning phase. We were learning about each other.
Right.
And isn't that like, that's how it always goes.
You just want to be like cuddled up and talking all the time and learning everything. Yes. I call that the like stage.
Yeah. What I didn't know was that he was in a relationship.
Like a full on relationship?
Like a about to end relationship.
So he was prepping for the next thing.
So that, no, we were friends. So you know, that's what he says. We were friends. And so, and by that, I mean, like, we really didn't do anything. It's not like we weren't like messing around or anything. Everything was very like,
but it was emotionally intimate, probably.
It became that, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I really just wanted a friendship. So prior to that, a couple months before that, I did have like an emotional breakdown or whatever when that failed relationship, right? And because
you mean a relationship before him?
Before him, yes. And I just remember like being prayerful about it, you know, and I was like, God, you know what? Like, I'm ready to just get my life together. Like, let me stop, you know, certain habits. Let me stop hanging out with certain people. Let me get my life back on track. And I was like, and the next man that you send this way, like, let him be A, B, and C, right? Checklist.
What was on the checklist?
He fit that, Tanisha.
What was on the list?
It was just like he has to be kind. He has to be faith driven. He has to value family. He has to they're fundamentals to any relationship. But it was just like, I just wanted it to be right this time, you know? So it was like, well, he approached me. We are in this like getting to know you. We're friends. He sends me scriptures. He wishes me a good day. He's very family oriented. He met the checklist.
So at the point at the beginning where you found out that he was on the tail end of this other relationship,
I'm counseling him through it, girl.
Okay.
I am like, maybe you guys should get back together. Maybe, you know, I'm telling him, maybe you should figure that out first. It was him trying to figure out how him and his ex were going to make things work or not make things work. And, you know, they'd been together for several years. And
so at that point, why didn't you step away and say, call me when that's done?
The reason I guess I didn't step away was because I enjoyed the quote unquote friendship from it, right? That became emotional for me. but there was a friendship there that I valued, that I did appreciate in the conversation. And I think it was innocent for me on my end. So it was kind of like, well, I mean, we're early enough into the season where if he really wanted to just cut me off so you guys could figure that out, like, it'd be cool, you know? And if you wanted to work that out. But he always came back.
Okay, so at this point where he is on the tail end with the girlfriend and you guys are talking a lot and you're helping him figure it out and counsel him through this, I think that might have been sending a message of you being okay with sort of being on the back burner, the second priority, however we want to phrase it. Though you saw it as, you know, I'm doing what a friend does, which is helping you through what you're going through.
True.
I think to a man, that situation might have translated as, well, she's okay with this. Hindsight is 20/20, obviously. But I think for anybody in that situation currently, a good way to handle it is be like, yo, when you can come to me clean, let's start from there. Don't come to me with your baggage. Let's not start there. If this is the line, right?
Yeah.
And we're just coming into it as is, we start here and like we can build up. But if you're coming with all this baggage, then you're weighed down. So now we're starting down here and we have to work all this just to get here at the starting line. Everybody has stuff in life. Like nobody comes in anything perfect.
Right.
We don't come like, hey, I'm 100% perfect. I have everything I want in life and I'm happy and I'm this and I'm that. But like clearly if you're ending a romantic situation that's not really ended, there's baggage there.
Especially a long-term one.
How long were they together?
So they were together for about 3 to 4 years. So for that reason, she also was very close with the family. They've had history. So that was a challenging portion of our first year or two. I know it's a long time, but like where holidays were kind of awkward and like,
oh, you're not her.
Yeah, I'm the girlfriend now. You know, with like the roles reversed, and there was just this dysfunction to it. But that was all a learning experience the first few years. Then there was 2 different lives trying to come together. I am a mother coming into this of 2 boys. He does not have any children.
How old were your boys at the time?
Oh gosh, 4 and almost 6 maybe. Yeah, so pretty young, very young. And for that reason too, it got challenging over the years because they were so young and have known him all these years growing up that they began to develop a relationship with him. Of course. And he began to develop a relationship with them. And so I kind of fell into that category of women who kind of have that fantasy that, oh, we can be a family now. You know what I mean? Or you see that because you see how great he is with the boys and the boys love him and look up to him. So there was like that complication. And then just getting close with each other's family. He was the only man that's ever been around my entire family.
Now, at that point, you know, the first couple years in, did you guys talk about marriage and what that meant to you?
If I'm being honest, I don't think we really talked about marriage like that. I think it was always, I want it when we ha. You know what I mean? But I was never like, hey, let's sit down and talk about this. Like, I really want this. And this is like a necessity for me, you know, like, is this what you want? And what do we need to do to get there? And like, we never had the communication skills, unfortunately. In hindsight, when I'm looking back at everything, we didn't have the communication skills needed to articulate our needs, be open about who we were, what we needed to be our best selves, be vulnerable. So the idea of marriage always was pushed to the back burner. It was always when we get there, when we meet this.
Who was saying that? When we get where and when we meet what?
Him.
Where are we going? And what are we meeting?
It was him. I'm a very outgoing, very bubbly, very charismatic person, to where for him it may have come off as like, oh, you're a very flirtatious person. You know, like, do you not recognize when these men are, you know, that they're looking at you? Do you not recognize? And so it was like him revealing certain things to me that I may not have recognized before. And so it was like, oh shoot, like I need to grow in this area. I need to learn this, this, and this. I need to start, you know, making these types of changes so I can be more mindful of it. And they bettered me.
What type of changes? Like not being as outgoing?
Just knowing like who do you define as your friend, right? What makes them your friend? Is it because they like your posts because they share it? Is it because if you're moving, they'll help you move? If you're sick, will they bring, you know what I mean? Like, how do you define your friendships? For me, friendships are like, I can go without talking to somebody for months and pick back up like it was nothing. You know, friendships are, I only met you a few times, but you impacted my life in such a way that like something might trigger a thought or whatever. And I'm like, wow, that was really awesome of that person. Or if I see them, there's like this trust factor because they know you based off of the character and the relationship you guys established. Whereas for him, it's very like, if you're not in my circle, if you're not in this season of my life, like if this doesn't really fit with the form of family, if I can't speak.
So you
for
guys
him,
have a different definition essentially around what friendship means.
Exactly.
Like for him, it seems to be a little bit more of a firm definition. Like you had to have been there through this struggle in my life, through this time, through this thing. For you, it's like we can have different sorts of connections and I can still consider you that.
Yes.
Now, was that part of the thing that he felt like you needed to grow on in order to have those further discussions on marriage?
There was also just trust. I had male friends. I still had male friends that I may have dated back in the day, but I'm platonically just friends with them now. Or male friends that may have been interested in me, but I just wasn't going. You know what I mean? Like, but you're cool. You know, we can hang out, we can talk, we can do this, that, and other. But going into a relationship, it was like, I realized that I had this attachment issue that like, it was hard for me to let go of relationships that no longer served me. And I would like hold on to them as if they were near and dear. You know what I mean? Like, right. and I realized that like, oh, you know, maybe I do need to let go of some of these people. Maybe my circle is too big. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and that just came with maturity. But I also feel like that happens naturally, you know?
Right.
And so, it's just two opposite people coming together was just really challenging. Everything from friendships to communication to how we, you know, even how we parent, right? Like, even though the boys aren't his, there were still certain things that he is observing and like trying to, you know, work with me on. Because if we were to have children together, this is what my expectations are going to be.
And so have you guys sort of come to a compromise throughout the years on these things, you know, the friendship things, the parenting things, you know, where did you guys land on those sorts of issues?
So yes, I believe I have. And I think that that's why I'm at the point where I'm at right now is because I realize that I'm not the same person that I was 7 years ago, 6 years ago.
And you shouldn't
5
be.
years ago. And I also have a different sense of confidence and a different sense of independence. And I even view him differently now. You know what I mean? And not in a good or a bad way, just that I'm reassessing who am I now and in this, the woman that I am now in my confidence, you know, like knowing who I am a little bit more now. And does that work with my human, you know, that I'm in this season with right now? And to be honest with you, I think that's kind of like we're having this tackling moment right now. And
does it work with you?
Oh my gosh, it does, but it doesn't for him. There are still some things that he feels like I need to work on. And I'm in a season of my life where I'm like, I don't want to work on that. I'm actually happy with that. I'm like stubborn about.
It sort of feels like you have children. I'm sure you've said to your children, you know, oh, if you want to go to the park today, you better make sure that your room is cleaned up, all the toys are picked up, the clothes are picked up, this is folded, that's folded, da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
And then we can go outside.
And then we can go. And then they come and they're like, all right, the room's clean. And then you do a thorough inspection. You're like, ooh, still socks over there. And then they're like, okay, fine, we'll pick up the socks. And then they pick up the socks and they're like, all right, we're all done. And then you're like, ooh, I still see your Game Boy sitting out there. And it's like, okay, I picked up the Game Boy. Okay, now can we go? And it's almost like, because I've done this to kids where I'm like, I didn't want to go to the park, so I'm just going to wear you down. Until you're like, screw it, whatever, I'm not going to the park. It sort of feels like that a little bit.
Yeah, it feels long-winded.
It feels like, okay, cool, you did that. Now go back and go back and do this, go back and do this. And I'm almost wondering, like, does he want to go to the park?
Yeah.
Or is he just tiring you out?
I hear you. And for him, it's not that he doesn't want this, first of all. Like, I will say that he's expressed, I want marriage. I want children. I want to be with you. I'm choosing you. But when you are doing things that are going to, that show me different from what you say you want out of this relationship, that's when I'm like, you know, that's when he becomes reserved. So if I'll give you an example, I guess. I'm very spontaneous. If it's my day off work, Tanisha, and I planned on going to get coffee, grab lunch, go to the library, go home and clean, I just might do one of the 4 things and do 5 completely opposite things. You know what I mean? And it may come off as off structure, but it's like, it's my day off. I decided to go to Target, forgot there was a sale, decided to get my nails done and my hair. And then I went home and read a book. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it doesn't mean that one or the other is wrong. It's just, it's just what I did.
You're different.
And so I think that because it doesn't show like structure, where he's a very structured person, if certain things kind of throw him off or doesn't make sense, I think it can become a challenge for him. Whereas and it used to be for me too. And that was because I used to be very insecure. I was very like, I don't trust you. That's suspect. Why do you need this? Where are you going for that? How come it's so long? And I learned to let that go. Over time, I just was like, that's exhausting. I don't want to do that anymore. You know what I mean?
What specifically made you let that go? Like, how did you come to that, to a point where you were able to be like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about these little things all the time. I can't.
I stopped wanting to grow to be the woman that I needed to be for him, and started to grow for my own happiness, for my own. And as selfish as that sounded, I needed that because I was so insecure. I don't
think that's selfish at all.
So broken, you know.
You stopped cleaning the room.
Yeah, I don't feel like it. And, you know, like, I love him for more than just, you know, what the relationship has had to offer. I love him as a person. And that's why it's so hard to make these choices, you know, because we want the same things. But I think we're going to see them realizing, can these 2 totally different people really make it work? Because here's the thing. If you roll your clothes and I fold it, I can work with that. But if it's like, we agreed that when we do this, and this, that it's going to be like this. So when you don't do that, it throws me off. And I'm like, but when I don't, it's not because I'm trying to hurt you or because I'm trying to, you know, or I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. If I didn't call him and it was my day off when I normally would, and I ended up doing something else because I thought, here's that communication barrier. I thought, he must be busy. He's got work. It's my day off. I want to do this, you know, shoot or whatever. And I got hit up by a friend to see if I wanted to still do something because it's related to my book and whatever, right? And I didn't take his call. So now it's like, you didn't call me when you got off work. You didn't take my call. And you got somebody at your house that you don't normally have over, you know, to do something for you. But it just comes off as all these red flags for him.
But at this point in the relationship, it's like, I know you or I don't. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
I think early in a relationship, like, yeah, you don't know somebody's habits. So it's like, well, if why are you just switching it up? I don't know you. But if after, like at this point with me and Chris, I just know sometimes this man just falls asleep. Like, we'll be texting. And then the next thing I know, I just don't hear from him. And he will just fall asleep at the drop of a dime. And then he'll text me like 3 hours later. Like,
so what was that like in the beginning though?
In the beginning, I'd be like, I was worried. Like, what happened? Like, we were talking and then like, I just didn't hear from you, you know? And like, but now I just know it's a thing and I don't fret
about it, right?
I can't control him. Like, I can't be like, don't fall asleep, you know? But he does know as soon as he wakes up to text me and be like, oh, my bad. At what point do you accept somebody for who they are? And at what point do you say, this isn't going to work because those differences don't work for me? It's a hard balance. And I think the only logical answer is really what's really important to me and what's just annoying to me. It's annoying to me that Chris falls asleep sometimes when we're talking or like when stuff's happening. Mm-hmm. That's very annoying, but it's not a must for me. It doesn't really change much in my life. And so for me, I guess that's how I consider it. It's like, is this thing something really important? And also, like, I consider character things a lot. Mm-hmm. So there's certain things that you can't change about a person. Like, if I wanted to, if I really worked on it and really was just like, all right, we're going to work on this, you not falling asleep and calling me like, I guess I could invest the time, but to me, that's not really worth it.
Right.
But I like to focus on the things that you like can't really change about a person. So like you can't change their heart. Like you can't change their kindness. You can't change their spirit. You can't change how they treat people. You can't change how they treat you. It's the balance though, but it depends on each person personally. Cause like it might be really important for somebody else to get a phone call back. Like that might be like,
and that's me learning to respect that.
but also can you change yourself from who you are to accommodate that? You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying he's wrong for wanting a phone call back. I'm not saying you're wrong for doing whatever you wanted to do in your day, but how much of yourself or himself does he have to shift in order to make this all work?
I agree. And to your point, speaking for myself, there isn't much that I want to change for the relationship in regards to who I am at the core. There isn't. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, I could do a better job at keeping the house clean, or being more timely. There's always room for improvement. Always. It's just the things that I feel like he needs from me in order to put a ring on it are not the things that I feel like need to be a reason for a pause right now. Like, okay, great. We'll work through that. You know what I mean?
What does he actually need? Like, what has he outlined and said, this is what I need? If he had a checklist.
Consistency. That's one thing.
And what does consistency mean to him?
Do what you say you're going to do. But sometimes that means like, I need room for exception.
Does that for him mean I said I was going to read a book and go to the mall and, write a chapter, but instead I, met with one of my friends and got my nails done? Like, are those the types of things that he means?
Part of it, yeah. And
or does it have to do with specifically him?
Well, if it affects him, if it's going to affect him in any way. And like, what if I wanted to take you out to eat afterwards and you decided to make these plans, and by the time I call you, you're like, oh, I'm hanging out with so-and-so actually. And then in my defense, I'm like, well, we didn't talk about or make any plans earlier, so I just made plans. You know what I mean? It's just,
if you're really structured and you want to make a plan, make a plan. Like, we ain't got a plan. I don't have plans.
Just like, and I hate that I'm always using that card. Like, but we're not married. We don't live together. It's what I want, but ultimately it's what I want. But it would be so much easier if we were under the same roof. It would be so much easier if we were, if we were together.
Actually, why don't you guys live together after this long? Like, is there a specific reason?
His whole thing is I'm not moving in with anyone until we're married. And
he didn't live with the previous girl?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. I mean, and I don't know. Yeah, no, he never has. And I have. But I think I think it's great. Like, living in the same household with a person, if you're choosing to be with them, I mean, granted, yes, you should, that's the goal, right? Is to be married first and do all that good stuff. But it was like this far in the game, it was just like, listen, like we could be saving money. We could be doing this. You know what I mean? Like we could be having the foundation together. You wouldn't have to worry about like how late I stayed out because I would be coming home. You know what I mean?
Or I'd just be out with you.
I would just be out with you. Yeah. It'd just be things like that. Or you wouldn't have to, we wouldn't have to worry about, oh, did you talk to so-and-so? And have we hung out? Because we're doing it together, And whether I'm being impatient, whether I'm not bending, whether I'm not, working with him on this compromise, because my only expectation of him is to just help me, like where you can help me, because we live in two totally different houses. Like I'm a single parent, I'm in a 2-bedroom, you're in a 1, you don't have any kids, you know what I mean? I'm not like overly materialistic. I'm not the girl that's like, oh, I want a Louis Vuitton and I want this and I want, you know what I mean? Like, no, I'm actually like
pick the kids up for me if I need.
Like, can we go get something to eat? Yeah. And so it's just the opposites. He's very, I save, I'm very budget conscious. I balance my time. I don't need to be ripping and running everywhere. I need quiet time. I work hard for everything that I have and for everything that I do. Family is very important to me. I'm not whimsical. I don't, you know what I mean? And I'm very like, I like to do arts and creative stuff and hang out with my friends. And I'm not like a party goer or anything like that. It's just that I value friendships and actually doing things with them with a regular basis. And a lot of my friends are moms anyway. So we all get together, we get coffee and all that good stuff. I'm a creative. I love being a part of community and supporting my community. And not that he doesn't. I'm just saying it's always more out. Everything I do is always extra.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm going to this church to go volunteer to do this. I'm going here, I'm going there. And it comes off as if like sometimes I'm just doing too much, you know?
Right.
But that's just me. I have the energy for it and I don't mind.
Today's episode is sponsored by Book Notes. I can't even admit how much time I've spent Netflixing and chilling in 2019. So one of my 2020 goals is to read 24 books, and I've got the cheat code to do it. I recently discovered the Book Notes app. Book Notes summarizes the key ideas from a vast library of books on everything from finance to love and career to health and happiness. So they have books to help with any goal you have this year. As you may have guessed, the love category is my favorite, and they have must-reads on there like Attached and the 5 Love Languages. P.S. It's 2020, so you better know your love language. Next, I think I'm going to check out Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, which I know I'm super late on. I've been meaning to read it for about 10 years now. But with Book Notes, it's only going to take me 12 minutes because most of their books are 15 minutes or less. And I love that you can read or listen to the books. And you can try Book Notes free for 7 days by clicking the link in the show notes or by going to booknotes.page.link/dating.
We're just different, and I'm learning to embrace our differences.
But it sounds like he hasn't quite embraced the differences. Like he's like, this is different. It might not work.
In his defense, so one of the things that he challenged me on, regarding finances, okay? You want to get married, you want to have a house. Cool. So I've saved money to put up for a house. How much can you put down? And I was like, what? I mean, how much are we talking? Like, what? I'm like, wait a minute, let's go back to plan, like the drawing board. Where are we at? Remember, I'm a single mom, 2 kids,
Right.
And and he was like, just think about how you spend your money. And I was like, man, he's like, all them lattes you be buying, like you spend like this. And in my defense, I'm like, listen, coffee is survival for parents. Okay. When you I'm always on the go. Like,
but you don't need $5 Starbucks coffee.
No, I mean, yeah.
You can get that gas station coffee too.
I can get the gas station coffee. Exactly. And so he's always challenging me to be better. Right. And in ways that's like, okay, or always, buying a bunch of stuff for my house. I get that from my mom. She loves
You love
to
TJ
make
Maxx,
house.
don't you?
I do.
I knew
Home
it.
goods.
Yeah, you seem like the type.
And
Me too.
Because I want, when we get a house, though, you ain't got to worry about furniture. We are good. We're going to have all the appliances.
And
all
the candles.
The candles. It's going to smell good. It's going to be decor. You'll have frames. It'll look like home. And so I feel like there's something good to come with that, right? Whereas with him, it's just kind of like you're filling it up with stuff, like just stuff. Do you need that? Be practical. So I was like, okay, all right, cool, fine. But is that a reason to not marry me?
Yeah, that's the thing. I totally understand his point of view. Like, I do think that in marriage, right, you are essentially bringing 2 households together. You're bringing 2 people together.
Yep.
And there are certain things like finances and the raising of children that we do need to be aligned on. Not necessarily everything, but you need to at least know where the person stands and like what you need to work on and like where you guys just need to compromise and like all that should be on the table.
Yeah.
But you're never going to get to a perfect place, nor is he. Like, you're never going to get to a place.
Even with parenting.
Right. You're never,
there
ain't no perfect parents. And you're never going to get to a place where you're like, everything is 100% in order.
Right.
And he is either going to accept that or he's not. I don't know where the goalpost is or if it keeps moving or not. But at a certain point, yeah, this is me and this is you. And does that mesh or doesn't that? Yeah. So when is the last time that you guys had a conversation about marriage?
We recently, because I was putting the pressure on and I let him know that 2020 is going to be different for me.
What's going to be different?
It's either we're doing this or we're not. And
this being marriage,
yeah, engagement, a ring. Because here's the thing, I could do it. I can do the things that he wants, right? From a marital standpoint. It's knowing that that's really what you want with me, because I'm so maybe the opposite of what you're looking for.
Does that bring you joy? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Gotcha.
I could go climb Mount Everest, but for me, that's not necessarily an activity that might bring me joy. I could train for it.
So
I could work hard.
I could do it, but I would fear what would happen if it didn't happen. Like that one time or that second time. Is that going to make or break your world then? So in coming to this place of let's talk about this, what fits, what doesn't fit, it's like, I'm just going to be honest. Like I'm starting to feel like, man, I don't know that this.
What does your gut tell you?
Ooh, come on, Tanisha.
No, what does your gut tell you? What does your gut tell you? Your mouth can lie, your head can lie. Like a lot of things can lie, but your gut never lies. Like what does your gut tell you?
That this may not be it. And it hurts.
So why keep going?
I guess because there are still parts of me that I know will change over time. We're all growing and we're all evolving. In short, I feel like I could be the woman that he needs me to be right now in like 10 years. and he is the husband, the man, the life partner I need right now. And in the years to come. I just need him to like embrace me for who I am. And I think that that's why I'm hanging on, is because I'm waiting for him to be like, you know what, Glaiza? I've been fighting this for too long. Like, you are just who you are. At the core of you is a loving person who does want to make things work with me. Like, I want him to just know and see that. And there are things that I could work on and be better. But, like, at the end of the day, you can consistently choose me. Even on the days that we've gone out, like in the days that we've broken up. And that's one thing I advise is when you say you're done, like you better be done for real, because I can be honest with you that I've called it quits on several occasions. And for a person who doesn't play those games or does not take that lightly, it's hard to keep coming back.
You called it quits because of this marriage situation?
Several things. I mean, we've had a roller coaster of things. There have been multiple reasons that I've called it quits. But when I called it quits, it was like within 2 weeks. There was always a change of heart. There was always, maybe I didn't mean it in that moment. Maybe I could have communicated well, because I wasn't really good at communicating.
Who comes back when it's called off, you or him?
Both, depending on one or the other. You know, you get to a certain point, like where a week later you're sending each other like hearts or broken hearts or, you know, pictures of like initials in the sand and things like, you know what I mean? Like you just start the reminiscent piece of you starts coming out like, wait, I want you back. I love you. Or we're bigger than this and we can make it work. And you start to see possibilities again.
What if there's somebody out there right now who could love you just as you are today?
Hello. I'm just kidding.
Where you at?
Come through. No. And I think that that's what I'm starting to open my eyes to, and not just for me, but even for him. You know, if I have to take into account that as much as I might be feeling like at times I'm burdening myself by staying in this situation, he might be feeling the same way too. And it becomes this unhealthy cycle that we keep going through back and forth, because the truth of the matter is we're both great individuals. We're great friends. We are great family members. We're great to we're great uncles and aunts. You know what I mean? We make for the great human. But as a couple, if there's a point in our relationship where I'm not making you better, or you're not making me better, or you don't feel valued, and I don't feel appreciated, or I'm not feeling loved in the way that I need to be loved, and our communication is just turned into mud, and no matter how well you communicate to me, I might not receive it in the way that you're trying to convey it to me because of all the things, you know, and experiences and things that we've been through. So I'm at a place now where I'm telling you, like, this is what you get. Like, can we do this or not? Okay, so there was a period of time where we broke up. Actually, I forgot to mention that. Last year, in 2018, we broke up.
You know how I know when it was, though you didn't tell me?
Woo!
Let me tell you. I can read it. I can read Instagrams, right? There was this period on your Instagram where you were just like working out all the time. Like you lived in the gym. And I was like, I wonder if they broke up. That's exactly what I looked at your Instagram and thought. Was that when it was?
Yes.
See, I knew it. I could read an Instagram.
It was. I just felt, and it felt good. I felt good. Every decision I made was for me. It was on my own. I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I didn't call, or is this being inconsiderate? Would he not like this? Am I, you know what I mean? Like,
how long
I didn't have to share my
was
time.
the breakup?
The summer.
Okay.
The summer. I was like, I'm done and blah, blah, But to your point, he was relentless in his pursuit. Like, he made sure that, like, just so you know, while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, which it wasn't like I was just out here sleeping with people. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was that I felt a sense of freedom of like, there is a benefit to being single, and there's a benefit to being in a relationship. And I experienced the benefit of being single that I had not really been for years. You know what I mean? And so it wasn't that I didn't miss him. There were times where I was in shambles. I mean, I was like snot crying, like me and the glass in below, like boo-hooing. And the next night I'd be crying to Jesus. It was a season of definitely learning myself in the process, but I learned more about the things that I really did like. And because I got to experience so much of that peace and happiness and my creative or whatever, I was like, I don't think I want to change this. And if you come back and we work things out, I kind of knew then that it has to feel better than this.
Right.
It has to feel better than this.
Was that a wake-up call for him in a way, do you think?
Yeah, because when I said all them times before that I was done and I wasn't, like this time I was done. I actually felt a sense of I'm done. And again, had it not been for you're in my thoughts and in my prayers, like I'm thinking of you. Hey, beautiful, blah, blah. Here's some, sending you some sunshine, sending me pictures and all those things. Like it made my heart like, what is it?
I'm just like, why was text message invented to mess with people?
I know, it was such an emotional thing. And so I was like, oh, and it was a healing process for him. He went through this healing process and realized that there were things in him that he needed to work on and get worked through. And he had a growing experience in that. And so when we came back together, it was like, wow, like, I guess we could try to do this. And slowly, as time went by, I think we went back to being ourselves, I guess.
Have you given this ultimatum in the past? Engagement or done?
I did, but you know what? Like, I've heard from other women, though, who have said, like, you can't force a person to do that. You can't.
And the more you force it, the more it becomes unappealing.
Yes. And so learning that, I was like, okay, so I'm not going to force you to do this, but I'm saying that I am going to make a choice. I have a choice too, though, that if in 2020, like this doesn't happen, it probably just is not. I'm not going to do 8 years. I know that much. I didn't think I would be hanging on this long. At 5 years, I said at 3 years, I was like, I'm done. At 5 years, I said that. 6 years, 7 years is the year of completion.
So what's going to stop you? Like, let's just say 2020, it doesn't happen. What's going to stop you from going back when there's a heart text and emoji and I miss you? Like, how is it going to be different this time? Like, what's different?
I have to be okay with blocking my blessings.
Who says that's blocking a blessing? It might be opening a blessing up.
And if he comes back with the hearts and whatever, and we continue this cycle, I would be blocking my blessing.
Right.
We would be doing that for each other. There's no doubt in my mind that we don't love each other.
Right.
There's no doubt in my mind. And I'm far from perfect in this relationship. And so was he, but there's just something to be said about the point of exhaustion.
Oh my God. I just thought of this song that's perfect for this. I think it's by Bonnie Raitt. But she says, there's a danger in loving somebody too much.
Oh, yeah.
When you know that you're hiding, you can't trust. Yes.
Yeah. Baby, sometimes
love just ain't enough.
Yes.
Yes, that's what just came to mind. Like,
oh man,
there seems to be no doubt that you love each other. Like, I don't think that's in question for you or him, but is that enough?
We operate in a very family manner. And I think that's where my frustration comes from, because it's like, we do groceries together. We're doing laundry. We are, staying the night. We're doing family stuff. We're going to gatherings together. We're buying stuff for each other's family members. You know what I'm saying? Like, now, so what's going on?
Now, being that he has been in your boy's life that long for, just especially a part of their lives where they're very impressionable about like who's around. They're sponges at that point. If you do end up having to let this go, how is that going to be for you, being that your boys do have this long relationship with him? Like, are you going to be able to cut that? Will you cut that? Will you still keep that if it comes to that?
So we actually already had this conversation, and I let him know the same thing. And I said, the boys love you. You're a great role model for them. You've been in each other's lives for many years now. They have cell phones. If there's ever a moment that like they want to just call you, you're one phone call away. If you ever want to hang out with them, I'm never going to be like, no, you can't go see him, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, they can have that. I'm at a place where peace means, for me, that even if we are not together, we can still be friends. I can still have that with you, because it's been, this relationship has been drawn out. We've experienced every emotion, every high and low, in and out of it, that if it were to end, I would just want it to be amicable. Like,
there's no reason to hate each other.
Exactly. Like, hey, oh, you're coming over? Okay, cool. So until I get in another relationship, like, that's not going to change. You know what I mean? Like, there's there's got to be boundaries, for sure, to go through the healing process so that we know exactly where we are at.
Right.
But they could definitely still keep the relationship. And I would definitely hope that we could still be friends. He's a great guy, but I don't want to be 45.
Oh, girl, you got a lot to consider.
45.
Is there like a month in 2020, or just should I check in with you in December?
So in 2020.
When's your birthday?
October 25th.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that's another thing. I'm 35. I just put it out there.
That part doesn't matter. You can get married at 25, 35, 85. I know
women have gotten married at 50. Yeah.
That part doesn't matter. Just, I think what you should consider in sort of making this big decision is, I want to be married? You know that. You want to be married. Do you want to be married specifically to him because of him? And are you at the point you're at now because marriage is so important to you that you are continuing to push that, whether or not it's right with this person? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think sometimes what we want can really be like, that can overshadow what's really happening because we want that thing so bad. And it's like our eyes are on the prize.
Yeah.
And so I think in you considering this whole thing and thinking about marriage and the fact that you want it really bad, but make sure that it's for the right reasons and with the right person, and not just marriage for the sake of marriage, like
Agreed.
Not just marriage because like I'm about to be 36 and I'm 35 and like the time is ticking, and like that should never be a reason to get that should never be a reason to get married to anybody, right person or wrong person. Like, it should really be like, this is my person that I see my entire life with. This is the person that I am helping to enrich and grow. This is the person that is enriching me. Like, that's what it should be about. It should have nothing to do with your age.
I agree. So 2020, I would definitely check back in with me like February.
Okay.
Because here's the thing, like
that's like now pretty much.
Because here's the thing, because everybody is always like, nope, I am certain. The truth is I'm not certain. I don't know. Who knows what could happen in a month or 2 months, I may have a ring. I may not have a ring. I would like to think that whatever season I'm in that time is that I'm completely content.
What's the longest you've ever been single?
The longest?
Yeah.
A year. Well, hold on. Wait a second. 18. Yeah, a little over a year. Yeah. And I don't even think let me retract that. I don't think it's even been a whole year. I'm a long-term kind of a person. I'll be honest with you.
I sense that.
So prior to him, I was in that relationship was an epic fail. A year, but it was a year. I don't think I've ever had anything less than a year, really. And then my kid's father, I was with him for like 3-4 years. You know what I mean? So they were all long-term. But I would challenge myself in this season of 2020. The reason why I'm making it 2020 is because I want to know, like, by June 1st, do I need to start, like, try a whole year of single to see what that feels like, and just embracing, that life.
I think for people who have not really been single, I think that being single is a good exercise because there's a reason you haven't been single.
Ooh.
There's a reason. And the reason is not, well, I just met this person and then I met this person. And I think it's intentional. You might not have gone seeking it. Like, you might not have been like, I need to meet somebody. Let me go to the grocery store and bump into somebody, or let me go swipe. But it is intentional internally. Like, you're attracting that because you don't want to be single. And like, why is that? Like, dig for that.
And I think that that's another reason, though, why I appreciate this relationship is because I have been forced to dig and like challenge myself, my ugly, my habits, my why don't you talk about this? Why don't you share that? How come you are not, you know what I mean? And so when somebody does that to you, it's like, there was a point in time though where I hope that when somebody challenges you, it doesn't make you question who you are. And I think I did that at one point. And now that I've gotten to a comfortable place where like challenging me is just a matter of like, I need to think about that. Oh, okay, cool. Like self-respect, reflect and then move on, but not feel like there was something wrong with me. And I think that was one of the things before, was that I have always felt a sense of inadequacy.
Because you were being challenged?
Because of our differences, right? So when you think about, like I said, I came from the broken family. My dad was this, my mom's, every aspect of my life was in shambles, and his was more put together, so to speak. So it was like, oh, well, dang, I better get better at this. I better, and I was always working on self-betterment, but I think that those were, that was a way of affirming me, by doing that. And as I built the confidence, and as I learned myself more in the process, certain things that were just really innate in me that I was just like, like, no, this is really me. Like, now I can be like, when he comes over and my house is like, it looks like Katrina hit. I'm like, listen, so it's been a busy week. Just move that to the side, have a seat, and he just would be like, Glaiza, what happened? And I think that he can accept. But that used to bother me. I used to be like, you can't come over. Can we just meet somewhere? Can I just go to your house?
Because you feel like based on your differences and where you came from, that were you judging you, or was he judging you?
I maybe at times I may have felt like he was judging me, and he probably wasn't. It was just him observing and being like, hey, you want to take a look at that and kind of figure that out? Like, why? Challenging me to think about why. And then it was me judging me, because how much of our lives do we put out there to look a certain way that when it's not, you feel like, oh my gosh. Oh,
you just saw my ugly.
Exactly. Yep. So there were many moments of that. And
do you feel different now? Like, now are you at a point where you're not judging what's going on in the present and like where you fit in the hierarchy of each other? Like, do you feel like we're on an equal playing field? Exactly.
Like, listen, I don't do this, but I can contribute this. I can do this. I am good at this. I'm not very good at this. You can rely on me to do this, but I probably won't make it to that. You know what I mean?
How did you get to that place?
I think
where you weren't judging your past?
I just got fed up, I think. I got tired of not feeling good during those processes. You know what I mean? I learned to just be like, what parts of you need to get better and what parts of you are just you?
So you're writing a book.
Yes.
Tell me about the book.
Waking Up on the Inside. It is a memoir. It's basically just spiritual awakening for me. Because of my life journey and the challenges that I've been through, most people on the other side of that don't come out as hopeful or as positive or as outgoing. And because I am the testimony of a person who doesn't look like what they've been through, I was encouraged to write about it. Like, what was it that got you through, And a lot of it is faith driven. So I decided to put it in a book. It's actually in the finishing phase. Literally in about 2 weeks, I'll be done with it.
Wow.
And then I'll be going to the self-publishing and reaching out to a few of my peers that have written books and stuff. And yes, I'm looking forward to a big 2020, regardless of what it is. Yeah,
that is amazing.
Definitely want to do that.
And you also have a podcast called Work in Progress.
Yes, with me and my girlfriend, hashtag Work in Progress, but it's at Listen to WIP. So it's basically just a podcast about two women who just talk about day-to-day stuff that circles around health and wellness, but we make it fun, we make it deep, we make it entertaining and just relatable. So
that is awesome.
Yes.
I gotta say, I'm looking forward to your 2020 more than my own. Where can people reach out to you?
Yes, you can find me on at Glaiza Regis or at Listen to WIP for our podcast for Instagram.
Please keep us updated.
Yes, I'll be back.
As soon as there is any news.
Oh, yes, I will make sure to let you know. You might know on the 1st, okay?
If we got to call in for an episode. Thank you again for coming on tonight. This was amazing. Like I said, one of my favorite episodes. I already feel it. And you guys, please reach out to me at Tanisha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and let me know what you think of today's show. And until next time, wish me love. Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.